Hey everyone, this is Angelina Papazian with River of Life Coaching. I am a spiritual life coach and a master of social work, and today we're going to be talking about navigating the end of a season in life. Before we get started, please like, share, and subscribe if you find any of this content helpful. And if you are interested in one-on-one coaching sessions, message me directly. I am currently taking on new clients, and I am also in the process of creating more workshops. So stay in tune for that and stay in tune for more content. So before we get started, I want you to really think about where you are in your life right now. Think about the different roles that you play. Think about the different groups or communities you're part of. Think about the relationships that you have in life. Think about what seems to be working, what seems to not be working. Think about where you really want to be, and think about where you are currently and whether or not that's aligned, or whether or not you feel like you're taking those steps to being where you want to be in your life. So, when we think about navigating the end of a season in life, it can bring up a lot of emotions. Sometimes it can be very bittersweet. It might involve lots of different types of uncertainties. It might even bring some relief and excitement for what's new, but it also can bring in a whole grief process at the ending of that. It may bring fears. It may give us a sense of gratitude, and we might be experiencing a whole range of these emotions all at once, and all of that is perfectly normal, and it's perfectly natural for us to experience these things as we're navigating the end of a season of life. Something we have to remember when we go through these types of challenges is that it is part of being a human being. It is part of the experience of being human and feeling the full range of emotions, experiencing the richness of what it is to be human. So there's nothing that we need to be ashamed of. There's nothing that we need to think is deficient in us when we go through these types of challenges, but we might find that we might need a little bit more support. So going to therapy, doing one-on-one coaching, reaching out to a mentor or an advisor of some sort, reaching out to someone in our support system, someone who's experienced similar challenges and navigated that. All of those can be really helpful when we go through these types of things. So think about different areas of your life that you might be experiencing the end of a season of, or maybe look back on previous experiences on the end of a season of your life. Maybe it was leaving a job that was no longer aligned for you, or leaving a job from a variety of different series of events. Maybe you got fired, maybe you didn't get the promotion you wanted and you decided to leave, maybe you decided to go through an entire new career change and career shift, and all of that can be really exciting but can be really scary at the same time. Think about the relationships that you have. Maybe there were some relationships that you ended, whether it was a platonic relationship or a romantic or sexual relationship. Maybe you moved away from a hometown or a place that you lived for a long time. Maybe you moved away just for a period of time, but it still brought up some of these emotions. Maybe you changed communities and groups that you were part of. Maybe you graduated from an educational institution or a program or a certification program that you were a part of. Maybe you were recovering from an illness. Maybe there was a new illness that was brought on that came to the surface, and you had to experience some changes in your life and reevaluate some of the things that you were doing, or some of the ways you spent your time as a result of this illness. Or maybe even a spiritual shift, if we want to look at it that way. A lot of these things can be spiritual in nature. So what we want to do when we're experiencing the ending of different types of seasons or chapters of our life, we want to take a look at what we need to let go of and what we need to make space for. Sometimes when we let go of certain things and we stop engaging our time and energy into certain things, like certain places or relationships, for example, it gives us space to actually delve into some things that might be more aligned and better for us. It makes space for those types of new things to happen. The whole idea of out with the old, in with the new. So think about what season you're in right now, or a season in the past that you have left, and think about how you can honor what that season has given you, or what this season is giving you. Think of what you're leaving behind. Think of what this season taught you. Think of who you became as a result of going through this season. Think about what strengths you might have developed as a result of this. Think about different relationships you've developed or different people you've met. Think of how those relationships shaped you, good or bad. Think of what this has taught you. Think about what experiences you can carry with you in this new chapter in your life. What lessons did you learn? What strengths did you develop? What are some things that you might have learned about yourself? Whether it be an easy thing to learn about yourself or maybe a hard pill to swallow, but nonetheless a good thing to keep in mind. Whether the season that we're dealing with is difficult to let go of or not, we're still learning new things. We cultivate resilience and wisdom. We can develop compassion for ourselves and others. We can gain more clarity and have a better understanding of what it is that we really want and more about ourselves and what we need to take with us in the new chapters in our life. And what we want to do is allow ourselves to really grieve. Even if we know that the new changes that are coming into our life and the new seasons that we're in are positive nonetheless, and positive in the long run, there can still be a grief process that can be really uncomfortable. There could be a sense of nostalgia when we think about the old seasons or what we're leaving behind. There could be a sense of loss. There can be a sense of doubt. There can even be a sense of sadness and feeling as if we are losing a part of ourselves. We might be grieving familiar routines and places we've always gone to and habits and beliefs we've held on to. We might be grieving a version of ourselves that can feel really uncomfortable to navigate because we don't yet know who we're becoming. We might be in this place where we think about where we used to be, where we currently are right now, and where we are heading, and we might feel like we're not exactly right where we're heading and where we want to be, but we're not exactly who we used to be, and there have been those changes, and we might feel like we're in a bit of an in-between phase between the two of those. And in that becoming, we become more stronger, we become wiser, we become more aligned with ourselves slowly but surely. One step at a time, one day at a time, one experience at a time. And the more we experience those things, the more we actually do get to step into the kind of person we want to become and the realities that we want to experience in our lives. We may also be grieving some expectations, some ways that we thought things would happen. We might be grieving some things that we had become attached to that didn't happen. We might be grieving some goals that we might have wanted for ourselves that didn't happen for one reason or another. Sometimes that can be an easy thing to accept because we might be in a situation where a goal that we wanted to achieve that didn't happen actually was better for us, and we come to that realization. Other times we might have to let go of the expectations of how we wanted things to be, and we might have to grieve the fact that something that we wanted never came to fruition or never manifested for us. And that can happen. Some people don't want to accept that, but the reality is there are some times where things that we may want for ourselves don't always happen, and that's okay. That's part of life. Maybe it will happen, maybe it won't be. Maybe we do need to go about things in a different way. There's a lot of different perspectives people hold about this, and one might not necessarily be better than the other. This is a situation where we may have to actually really do some soul searching and think within ourselves and look within ourselves on what we believe in. There are people who do believe that we are 100% the creators of our own reality, and we might need to sit with ourselves on, do I actually believe in that? Do I think that's possible? Do I want to try that practice and that belief system and that framework of living and thinking? Or do I want to have a different approach? Do I want an approach that maybe takes two different approaches and accepts two different truths and realities at the same time and recognize that they're both valuable? That can be a whole nother topic that we can delve into at a later date, but to keep on track of what we're talking about right now, we want to focus on releasing too what no longer serves us. So when we think about letting go of different seasons and different chapters in our lives, we may realize that there are a lot of things that we have to really release and let go of, or at least change and transform. For example, we might need to let go of certain limiting beliefs and assumptions. We might need to be more aware of what our thought patterns are. We might need to release those old identities and those old behaviors and those old things that we do, and we might need to be more aware of what our self-concept is. We might need to let go of unhealthy relationship dynamics and let go of what is no longer serving us. We may be in a situation where we have a friendship or a relationship that isn't really going great, and we try to do everything that we can. We try to bring issues to light, we try to communicate, we try to repair things, conflicts that happen as they arise, but we may find that it's not workable. Maybe we find that we're just two totally different people and that we're not meant to be together long term, and we can view these relationships as relationships that came to our life for a season or a reason. Maybe it's not going to be a lifetime type of relationship, and those are all perfectly okay. Maybe other things that we need to let go of as we're going through the process of grieving an old chapter, or letting go of different seasons and chapters of our life, is letting go of all of the shame that we might carry. We might think of the different experiences or mistakes that we've made in this particular chapter of our life. We might think about all the things that we could have done a little bit differently. We might think about some things that, knowing what we know now, maybe I would have handled a situation differently. And that can bring up some shame, and that can bring up some guilt and everything. And maybe we need to learn how to navigate the shame and the guilt. Maybe we need to learn how to let go of that. Maybe we need to learn to develop different strategies to manage that. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. This is a perfect example of something that we would need to discuss with a mentor or a therapist or a coach or somebody who has experience with these types of things as well, to really help learn what actually helped them to navigate shame and letting go of that. We may find that we need to really let go of the fear of the unknown, or we might need to also just sit with the fear of the unknown as well. Maybe we need to just learn to sit with the discomfort, sit with the fears, sit with the wondering, sit with the mystery, sit with the uncomfortable emotions, whatever they may be. And so something we can ask ourselves is, what can I carry into the next season of my life that I want to cultivate? What can I bring from this season that I've had in the past, and how can I actually bring that into this new one? Or what is it that I'm going to leave behind? Really think about, what am I going to leave behind? Who are the people I'm going to leave behind, and why? What are the habits I'm going to leave behind, and why? What are the places I'm going to leave behind, and why? What are the groups or the communities I'm going to leave behind, and why? Are these types of things that we need to completely leave behind 100% and not turn our backs to? Or is it something that maybe we just need to lessen our interactions and exposure with? Each of us has to come up with these decisions on our own. We may come across people who have certain beliefs and certain opinions or perspectives or experiences that may not necessarily align with what is best for us or what we know to be right. And sometimes we need to take that leap of faith and actually trust ourselves and develop that self-trust and that confidence to step into the unknown. Other times we might find some value in listening to other perspectives to see what would be best for us to do or what would be good to try. At the end of the day, sometimes hindsight is 20/20, and we might not always know how something's going to end up, and we're not going to know what is going to be the best course of action for us to take. But sometimes we can just get quiet and sit and align ourselves with our truths and our beliefs and what really feels right for us, and see how we can take that to the next chapters of our life, see how we can actually base our decisions on them. Something we can ask ourselves is, what would an older, wiser version of myself do in this situation? What would they think? What would they say? What would a person who loves and respects themselves think, say, or do in this situation? How would they handle this type of situation? And sometimes that could give us a good guiding post on what to do when we're not 100% sure of how to navigate ending a relationship or ending a season in our life. And another thing we can do is notice who we've become as a result of these seasons and these places that we've been and the old identities we've had. How have we changed? How have we grown? How have we developed certain qualities? How have these qualities emerged in us? Is there anything that I'm proud of, and why? Or is there anything that I've achieved, whether it's material or non-material, or why? Are there any challenges that we've overcome? Are there any things that we learned about ourselves in this process? Are there any things that maybe we handled much better than we originally thought was ever possible for us? Is there a certain version of myself that's currently emerging right now? And how can I really give space for that and cultivate and nourish that? How can I help that to emerge? What's really in my control to do that? What resources can I look at to help that happen? Whether it's an inner resource or an outer resource or a support system. A lot of times we may not realize how much we've grown until we look back on it. sometimes when we're in the process of the becoming right now, or we're in the boiling point, if you will. Some people call it a pressure cooker, some people call it a boiling, being like in the boil or the boiling point, whatever it is. A lot of times we may not really see exactly how we're actually growing and changing and evolving, but when we look back at where we were a year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years back, down the 20 years behind us, we might actually find that there was a lot of growth that has happened. We might find that there have been a lot of things that have changed in us, all for the good. Some, maybe not for the good in our perspective, but we may really find that we have grown and changed in ways that we might never would have thought, or ways that we may never would have thought were going to be possible for us. And there can be a lot of power and value to that. There can be a lot of realizations of actually reaching our, seeing that we actually have a lot of potential and that we're capable of changing and becoming the people that we want when we really take a step back and think about that and really reflect on that. And when we actually give ourselves a chance to step into the type of people that we want to become and make these changes and go through these challenges, because this is not easy work. Really letting go of old chapters of our lives, accepting that new chapters are coming, accepting changes as they come, accepting life and all of the challenges that come with it. It's not an easy feat. And a lot of us may want to just dig our head in the sands, or we might want to avoid or numb, and we might not want to look at this or do the work that's involved in this. But for many of us who are brave enough to actually look at this, we can find that it is a very well worthwhile endeavor. And so we want to also take a look at resisting the urges to rush a new chapter in our lives. We may find that we're in that in-between place, like I had mentioned earlier. We may find that we're not yet who we want to be, but we certainly know we don't want to be what we used to be. And so we may find that we want to frantically rush and change everything and reevaluate everything, and there can be some value to it, but there may also be a little bit of a waiting period. Think about a plant. It starts off by planting a seed in the soil, and then somebody pours water into the soil and it has sunlight, and it goes through different seasons and different changes. That plant is not going to sprout overnight. It's not going to become the plant that we know of it to be overnight. There does have to be a certain process. There has to be a period of just letting things grow and evolve as it comes. There has to be a period of actually leaving it alone. There has to be a period of actually working to nourish it and nurture it. And there has to be a period of letting it just be still. We're not going to always be digging the seed up. That would mess it up, right? We don't always want to do that. So sometimes we have to treat ourselves like that and really be discerning over when is it that I need to actually take action and do something versus when do I need to just rest and reflect and take a step back and really just allow things to happen. Sometimes that can be very difficult for us, especially if we're so accustomed to being part of a culture that is so interested in being on the go all the time and doing and being action oriented. Sometimes we need to know how to balance action with rest. And that is something that is going to look different for each and every one of us. And sometimes we have to also accept the fact that not every question that we have is going to be answered immediately, and not everything that we want to know is going to be learned immediately. It might take some time for us to really come to better understandings and deeper truths about things and the experiences that we're having in our life. Sometimes we may have to accept that the next season in our life is only going to happen when we stop trying to force it to happen. Sometimes it's going to happen when we least expect it. Sometimes we don't have to do a lot. Sometimes we just have to show up. And sometimes we're going to be in the right place at the right time and meet the right person, and something happens. And a new network or a new opportunity comes in. Sometimes we do still have to show up, though. There is a balance of we need to take action, but we need to take right action or inspired action. We need to take action that is more aligned with us. And there might be some seasons where we need to do a little bit more and we may be tired. Everybody's experience is going to be different, and we have to really learn to discern all of those things. So stay curious. When we're going through these experiences and these challenges, really get curious about what is currently going on right now. What is happening? What might be the deeper truth to this? If we don't know the answer to that, that's okay. We don't need to force the answers. But what am I actually learning in this? What am I becoming as a result of this? What am I being invited to learn and to experience? What truths can I really nurture and nourish and harness? Where can I develop deeper truths and insights? Where can I gain better understandings and more awareness? What are some new opportunities that can happen as a result of all of these things that I'm experiencing? What are some possibilities that are opening up to me that I might not have considered beforehand? What are some things that are actually being opened up in my life as a result of this ending? Getting really curious about these things can actually reduce the fears that we have and the anxieties of letting go. It's so normal for us as people to want to grab onto something and to not release the control, when in reality we're hurting ourselves sometimes by holding on to certain things that are no longer serving us and that are not meant to be in the next chapter of our lives. Sometimes we have to really accept that the best things for us to do is to move on and to walk away from something that does not serve us in the kind of person that we want to become now, in the kind of versions that we want to be right now. Can't always take everything with us, and sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow. We might want to bring certain people or certain relationships into the new chapters of our lives. We might want to bring certain communities or groups into the next chapters of our lives. But sometimes that's not going to always be the case. And just because it's difficult doesn't automatically mean it's the wrong path for us to take. We might just need to learn how to really accept those changes and embrace them and not feel the guilt. We might feel the guilt initially, but sometimes we might look back and realize that the decisions that we made and the people we've let go of were the best things for us to make in the long run. And we may not regret it down the road in hindsight. So we can practice gratitude with what's coming into our lives. We can also accept the fact that there's going to be pain. And maybe we can practice gratitude and experience the pain all at the same time. We might have experiences with that. Gratitude doesn't necessarily erase the grief. It doesn't necessarily erase everything and just make everything better. We don't want to get into a habit of toxic positivity or any form of spiritual bypassing with this. But we can be thankful for some of the things that we have experienced and how they've shaped us and how they've helped us in our life. And we can also be thankful for the new things that are coming into our lives while acknowledging the fact that it is time for this chapter to end, and that can be really painful. It might feel some disappointment. We might feel the grief and the loss. We might feel the sadness or the nostalgia. We might even feel some bitterness or anger towards this, and all of that is perfectly normal. All of that is perfectly normal, a very natural aspect of all of this. So think about where you're at right now. Think about everything that was discussed up to this point. Think about who you're becoming, what transitions you're making, and how your identity is changing as a result of the chapters and seasons you're letting go of. Who are you? What is your identity? What is your self-concept? How do you view yourself? Who are you underneath all of these roles and these identities? Who are you underneath all of the experiences that you've had in your life up until this point? It's important for us to recognize that our self-worth as human beings don't change because of the changes that we're having or because of the experiences we've had or the mistakes that we've made. All of us are inherently worthy of good and inherently worthy of love. Some people don't agree with that. Some people have different perspectives and opinions on that. We each have to decide for ourselves where we stand with that. But many of us may find that regardless of the mistakes and the experiences we've had, regardless of the things that we've learned, the things that have had to happen in our lives, many of us realize that there is actual worthiness and good to us, simply for being a human being, for being created as a human being. Many of us can view this in a spiritual way, being a child of God. Some people view this as being a fellow human being. Some of us view this as just being part of life, a fraction of the great whole, a part of the great whole, and that is inherently good and beautiful exactly as it is, regardless of how everything is and regardless of how painful things can be and how dark and scary and seemingly negative things can be. Many of us can view ourselves as beautiful divine creations exactly as we are. So think about where you stand with that and how you feel about all of that. What are your actual beliefs on your divinity, on creation, on the beauty of creation, whether it's a child of God or any of those other terms that we can use to describe these things? And if you're going through a season right now that's ending, maybe consider making a ritual for that closure. Some people find that writing letters to ourselves, like a previous version of ourselves, can be helpful, or sometimes writing letters to our future self can be helpful. Maybe we need to write a goodbye letter to a certain group or community or person or relationship or identity that we never send to them, to somebody. We might need to visit a meaningful place one last time. Some people find that writing a gratitude list can be really helpful for this. Some people really find that just spending some time in nature and walking can be really helpful to connect with themselves, to connect with the divine. Some people might light a candle and look at the flame, or just reflect on whatever it is they're experiencing right now and reflect on the seasons and everything that it brought with them. Some people might find that being part of a cause that's important to them can help them to create a ritual for closure. Let's say, for example, you are part of an old group that focuses on a certain topic or a certain issue. Maybe you can give in a meaningful way to something that is related to that, but you leave that old group behind. Maybe you can also bring that with you into this new chapter in your life. Maybe you can share these stories with other people and you can give value to another person's life who's experiencing a similar thing by sharing your perspectives and sharing what you've gone through. And so what we want to do when we're letting go of those seasons, like mentioned, is we want to really ask ourselves what we want to become. We can ask ourselves what we want to do, what actions we need to take, and there can be a lot of value to that. But we also want to ask ourselves, what kind of person do I want to become? Is that a person with integrity? Is that a person with a moral compass? Is that a person who knows what they want and what they value? Is that a person who is strong, who values development? Is that somebody who is compassionate and wise? Is that somebody who is experienced? Is that somebody who is loving? Is that somebody who is kind and compassionate and caring? Is that somebody who's communicative? Is that somebody who's bold and brave? Is that somebody who is resilient? There's so many different things that we can really get curious about and really step into. There's so many different ways that we can actually go about these, and there's so many different things that we can do to really cultivate these traits within ourselves. We can focus on being the type of people that we want to become by first getting clear on what it is that we want. Maybe we can take a quick meditation and really view what our highest self might be. To one person that might look a certain way, to another person it might look another way, and that's all perfectly fine. There's no right or wrong necessarily. Sometimes we might need to experience and experiment what is working, what's not working, what will work, what won't work. So, some reflection questions I want to leave you all with is, when looking back on a certain chapter, really think about what defined this season and what you're most grateful for. Think about some of the things that might have been beautiful, that might have happened unexpectedly. Think about some of the things that were painful, some of the things that you might not want to happen, but they did. Think about what you want to take with you and what you want to remember from that season. Think about what you learned about yourself. Think about how those experiences can help you to become a better version of yourself, or to step into a certain version of yourself. When you think about letting go, really think about what you're ready to release, what you want to release. Think about what might be blocking you from releasing certain things. What are some attachments you might have? What are some expectations you're holding on to? What are some things that you wish would happen that you're having a hard time accepting that happened and hoping that something will be different? Is there anything that you really just have to accept will never be? Is there something that you have to accept won't be exactly the way you want it to? We don't know what the future is going to hold, I would like to mention. So we don't want to become despondent, but we do want to focus on what's actually in our control and what's not in our control, and whether or not certain attachments are helping us today, where we are right now, where our fear planted right now. We want to think about, is there anyone that we need to forgive in our life right now, including ourselves? We might find that we've made a lot of mistakes that have been hard for us to forgive ourselves for. We may find that we might be holding on to some of this shame. We may find that we might need to let go of the expectations of ourselves to have done better, or to have done things differently than they did, because we were acting and operating in what we knew at that time and what we were capable of at that time and what we were aware of at that time, and we made choices for one reason or another. And some of those choices might have brought favorable results and some might not have. But all of these are part of the learning process and living a full and rich life. That can be really hard at the same time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for any of you guys. Sometimes life, as beautiful and as amazing and as rich and full and vibrant and loving and peaceful as it can also be really painful and chaotic and scary and challenging and difficult and outright painful. Life is a mix of all of those things. And so each of us have to decide what we want to focus on and what we want to become as we go through those experiences. And we want to really decide what we want to do with those experiences, what we want to make of those experiences. What do we want our lives to be like, and what do we want to make our lives out to be? What do we want to make of the situations that we have right now? There's an old saying that when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Where do you stand with that? Is that something that you think might help you in your life? When we're looking ahead, we want to think about what we're excited about. What are some things that we're hopeful for in the future? What are some things we want to create in the future? What are some things that might scare us about the future? Having the unknowns and the mystery of not knowing how things are going to end up or what the bridge of incidents is going to be like. We want to think about what we want to have as our guide for the next season. What values do we want to guide us? What is our inner compass? What are our beliefs? How do we want to navigate these types of things? What type of people do we want to surround ourselves with? What would intentionality look like? What would it really mean to be full, to have a full life? And how can we create that? How can we look forward to that? So if you think you're in a season right now that you have to let go, really focus on all of this, everything that was just mentioned in this video, everything that might not have been touched on in this video, anything that came up for you. Really think about, of any of the points that were made, were there any things that might have been missed? Were there any things that you think could help you to navigate this? What would be a nice little twist to all of it? We may not know if we're ready to move on to a next chapter. We might be uncertain. We may not be 100% sure. Sometimes it is very clear to us when we need to move forward with something or when we need to make certain changes or leave certain places. But really think about where you are right now and what you think, whether it's a small inkling or a very strong, firm decision. Really think about what you think needs to be changed, and really give yourself some trust, some ability to trust in yourself to navigate what's ahead. Give yourself a little bit of grace as you navigate that. Try to be willing to embrace some uncertainties and not knowing how things are going to be. Think about the growth that might happen when you leave the old behind and step into new territory. Think about what you can gain in the grand scheme of things. Think about what an older version of you would say to you right now with this. Think about how these experiences might help you to learn more about yourself and might help you to become more clear about what your values are and what's important to you. Think about how you might actually practice certain values like acceptance, grace, wisdom, and really allow yourself to get curious about everything. Sometimes we might need to roll with the resistance. Other times we might need to let go of resistance as best as we can. So when we think about letting go of seasons, we can recognize that seasons are a pattern of life. It's a natural rhythm of life. We have seasons in the earth, summer, fall, winter, spring. They all bring their own things, their own lessons, their own experiences for everything that exists on the planet. There are seasons of growing, there are seasons of planting, harvesting, resting, seasons of beginning again, seasons of things becoming new, and very rarely are we in one season forever. It's only for a small part of our whole life in the grand scheme of things. Letting go of seasons or reaching the end of a season definitely can feel like a one-door closing. But by letting go of that, and by closing that door and clearing that away, it allows new things to take root. So sometimes it might help us to not really look at the loss and what we're leaving behind, but really focus on what we're carrying forward, what we're stepping into. And consider that maybe we are becoming wiser in the process. We might be cultivating more in our life. We might be developing better relationships for us. And maybe we need to focus more on not how can I get back to that old version of me, how can I get back to that old season until what was, and focus more on how can I actually step into the new chapter with whatever is unfolding next with faith and with grace. If you found this content to be helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I am available for coaching clients. And if that is not your thing, just stay tuned for more. And have a good day.